Here's something that should stop you cold. The story you've been told about who broke the housing market. The one with a clear villain, a simple fix, and a villain's name you can put on a protest sign. That story is missing the part that actually matters. And the part that's missing is so much darker than the original story. So let's talk about what's actually happening. Because there are a few things going on right now that most people in this conversation haven't connected yet. And by the end of this video, the way you think about housing, homelessness, and who's actually pulling the strings is going to look completely different. Institutional holdings of single-family homes sit at about 0.35% of the housing stock nationally, and institutional investors account for only about 3% of single-family rentals. That's the number. That's the actual number. And large institutional players like Blackstone only hold about 0.06% of single-family homes. The majority of rentals are held by local mom-and-pop landlords. So when you hear Wall Street is buying up all the houses, that's not quite right. Institutional purchases of single-family homes are actually down over 90% since 2022. Despite all the rhetoric that institutions are driving prices up, they have in fact been retreating from the market. Now here's where it gets genuinely strange. On January 20th, 2026, President Trump signed an executive order to prevent large institutional buyers from buying single-family homes, which sounds bold, sounds like action, sounds like someone finally did something. Except the buyers that order was aimed at had already mostly stopped buying. It's a little like passing a law against something that already stopped happening, and then holding a press conference about it. That's not policy. That's theater. And the theater is doing something dangerous. It's keeping your eyes on the wrong place. Because while everyone's focused on Blackstone, something else has been quietly running in the background, and this one has names, court documents, and a federal lawsuit attached to it. The Department of Justice sued 6 of the nation's largest landlords, accusing them of using a pricing algorithm to improperly work together to raise rents across the country. Together, the 6 landlords manage more than 1.3 million apartments in 43 states and the District of Columbia. This isn't a theory. This isn't Reddit speculation. Acting Assistant Attorney General Doha Mekki said, "While Americans across the country struggled to afford housing, the landlords named in today's lawsuit shared sensitive information about rental prices and used algorithms to coordinate to keep the price of rent high." And the mechanism, the actual how, is almost comically simple once you see it. RealPage's software was collecting non-public pricing information from multiple property managers and feeding it through a common algorithm, which then recommended an optimal rent level to those who used it, in violation of rules that prohibit such coordination. Landlords were essentially sharing what they charge with each other through a piece of software, and the software was telling all of them to charge more. It's a cartel, dressed up as a tech product. RealPage controlled about 80% of this kind of software market. So it's not like there was a competitor keeping them honest. One company, feeding data from landlords to landlords, recommending higher rents across the board, at scale, across 43 states. Now, the DOJ did reach a settlement with RealPage in November 2025. But the agreement includes no financial penalties, no damages, and no findings or admissions of wrongdoing. Just some guardrails on how they collect data going forward. So the mechanism that inflated rents for millions of renters resulted in no fine, no admission, and the company's CEO calling it an important milestone. That's the system working exactly as designed, just not for you. And here's the thing I promised I'd come back to, the one that ties all of this together. Stay with me for one more minute, because this is the piece almost nobody is talking about. Let's move from apartments to mobile homes, because this is where the trap becomes the most literal. Frank Rolfe, a co-owner of a training program for mobile home park investors, said the quiet part out loud. He said, "One of the big drivers to making money is the ability to increase the rent. If we didn't have them hostage, if they weren't stuck in those homes in the mobile home lots, it would be a whole different picture." That's not an accusation from an activist. That's an investor explaining his own business model. The word he used was hostage, and he's right about the mechanics. Moving a manufactured home costs between $5,000 and $10,000 on average, roughly 5 to 7 years of equity in the home itself. And as of 2017, for every $100 increase in space rent, a manufactured home lost an estimated $10,000 in value. So you can't afford to move, and staying makes your home worth less. That's not a metaphor for a trap. That is a trap, measured in dollars. And when a park sells to a new owner, things get worse fast. One study of Florida mobile home communities found that in the months after a park sale, eviction filings increased by 40%, not gradually over years. In the months after, the new owner buys the park, and the evictions start almost immediately. Now, you might be thinking, okay, where is the government in all of this? And that's the part that should make you sit up straight. George McCarthy of the Lincoln Institute of Land Policy identified that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, government-backed lending institutions, have been guaranteeing the loans used to buy these parks, under the banner of expanding affordable housing. Taxpayer-backed entities financing the same buyouts that trigger the 40% spike in evictions. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's a named institution, a named mechanism, and a named outcome. And when the housing crisis pushes people into homelessness, the legal response has been getting more extreme, not less. The Supreme Court ruled in 2024, in City of Grants Pass v. Johnson, that cities are no longer prohibited from punishing people for camping in public, even when they have nowhere else to go. Justice Sotomayor's dissent put it plainly. Sleep is a biological necessity, not a crime. But the ruling went the other way. And then there's Kentucky. Legislation that would permit property owners to use force, including potentially lethal force, against unhoused people found camping on private property, passed Kentucky's GOP-controlled House of Representatives. The bill, known as the Safer Kentucky Act, includes provisions that would intensify criminal penalties, and one of which provides that a property owner's use of force is justifiable if that individual believes unlawful camping is taking place on the property. Governor Andy Beshear vetoed the bill, but the bill allows property owners to confront unhoused people with a gun and potentially use deadly force in cases of criminal trespass, including unlawful camping on private property. The governor vetoed it. Lawmakers overrode the veto. It passed. That is now the law. So let's put the whole picture together, because this is the part the algorithm doesn't want you to see clearly. The popular villain, the massive Wall Street hedge fund buying every house on your street, institutional investors have actually been selling more homes than they buy, for 6 consecutive quarters. The real damage is being done by algorithmic rent coordination across 1.3 million units, by manufactured home park buyouts that trap residents with nowhere to go, by government-backed loans financing the squeeze, and by a legal landscape that is actively making it harder and more dangerous to be without a home. Nobody is coming to save us. That's not nihilism. It's just accurate. The executive order was aimed at buyers who already left. The DOJ settlement came with no fine. The taxpayer-backed lenders are still guaranteeing the loans. And the law in at least one state now says that if you're sleeping on someone's property because you have nowhere else to go, deadly force is on the table. So what do you actually do with this? I put together a full breakdown, a PDF guide that walks through how the algorithmic rent system works, what legal protections exist for manufactured home residents, what questions to ask if your park changes hands, and what organizing efforts have actually worked at the local level. Link is in the description. Grab it. Because the point of understanding all of this isn't to feel hopeless. The point is to stop fighting the decoy and start seeing the actual machinery. The people running that machinery are counting on you staying angry at the wrong target. The moment you stop, that's when things start to shift. If this landed for you, the next video is going to go even deeper on the algorithmic pricing story, because the rent case is just the beginning. That same model is spreading into other markets, and most people have no idea it's already happening where they live.